Hey guys, my name is Justin Harrison. You've made it to Diamond, and now you're zeroing in on Blue Diamond. And I've been asked to share just a few thoughts with you on maybe enhancing your abilities as a presenter, as a speaker, and we're calling this powerful presenting because we want to make you a powerful presenter. And you probably have already realized that it's not so much always what you say, but how you say it. And people often don't remember, in fact, most of the time, I know this will shock you, most of the time people don't remember everything that you say, but they will remember how you said it and how they felt. And so what I want to do is just go through some notes that I put together here from my years of teaching and presenting to help enhance and magnify your ability to present and to teach. Okay? So a good teacher compels people to be different by the time they leave. What we're looking for, and this is going to sound really funny, the whole goal that you have when you're teaching a class or doing a training with your team is you want those people, now you're never going to say this, but you want them to think and feel this, that they should be thinking when you're done that if I don't use these essential oils, I am going to die. Right? That's what they should be thinking. Now, obviously, you're never going to say that, but that's the message that you want to portray. So you want to get them to that point, and to get them to that point, you want to incorporate some of these skills. Now, we're going to talk about practicing. Practicing is important. There is an old adage that is falsely quoted often, and that's practice makes perfect, and that's wrong. Practice actually doesn't make perfect, because if you practice it wrong over and over again, it's still wrong. So it's practice makes permanent. So practice it correctly. So whether it's a class, an intro class, a training, whatever it is you're doing, give it some time, invest some time into it. You'll see the outcome improve for sure. So practicing is my first tip. The speaker who is still learning will always have the most to teach. Sometimes you've heard me say that if you're ever through learning, you're through. True. Never be through, guys. Okay, you're always going to be learning. I'm still learning. We're all still learning. This is a learning process. And so make sure that you are still learning, because then you'll always have the most to teach. When you're in front of a room, all of those people are counting on you to make it successful. No pressure, but they are looking to you as a leader. And so feeling and emotion matter most. Okay, and I kind of hit on that a little bit earlier, but just to visit it and maybe sink it in a little deeper. We're human, we're not Vulcan. And you Star Trek fans, that's right. There we go. I'm one of them. You know what I'm referring to there. We make our decisions based on emotion, not on logic. If we made all of our decisions based on logic, we'd all be perfectly healthy, perfectly fit, because we wouldn't eat things we shouldn't. We'd be totally different than humans that make our decisions based on how we feel and the emotion, especially the emotion of the moment, right? So keep that in mind, that it is really an emotional process. In fact, this could stun some people. Largely when people come into our classes, especially our intro classes, they will have decided whether or not to become part of your team before the class even starts. Okay, now you might think, well, that's not possible. Trust me, it really does happen because of how they feel, the ambiance that's been created, the environment that they're in, what's been going on before, and what goes on after are actually more important than what goes on in the middle, strange enough. And so it's all based on that feeling. And so you're going to practice, keep the focus on emotion, creating the right environment, creating that positive experience for the people that are there. Then I want you to incorporate a few other guidelines. And I actually got these from this book. Highly recommend this. Okay, and I've been to numerous seminars on teaching and presenting. This book captures all of those ideas and concepts right in book form. So this is by Chris Brady, who's one of my mentors, a phenomenal presenter, one of the best I've ever seen, which is why I chose this book to learn and mentor from. It's called Splash, A Leader's Guide to Public Speaking. Again, by Chris Brady. And in this, he teaches a concept. You guys all remember this song. I'll just hum it because I don't sing, right? You all remember the See, I don't even hum very well. E-I-E-I-O, right? E-I-E-I-O. So everybody knows that. this is the guideline to a successful class, meeting, presentation, whatever you want to call it, is following the EIEIO concept. So the first E stands for educate. You have to make sure that you're giving them something that they didn't have before. Okay, now that's pretty easy for us, right? Because we have tons of information to share that our guests will not have had before, right? The I stands for illustrate. And illustration really refers to how we're presenting the information, preferably with a story in some way, something that will be remembered. Okay, facts tell, stories sell. We've all heard that. It's so true. Stories anchor in memory. And so teach your concepts in a story form. Illustrate them in story. So E is educate, I is illustrate, the next E is entertain. Now, there's an important distinction here to be entertaining, but don't be the entertainment. Okay, there is a huge difference. They didn't come to watch a comedy act or some kind of audition for a show, right? But to be entertaining is a good thing. Humor, people pay attention to humor. It's something you want to use. Make it fun. They won't pay attention to the content. Okay, they won't pay attention to the content if you don't make it fun. And some of you might be thinking, well, I'm just not very funny or very humorous. That is a skill. That is a skill that you can work on and develop. The I stands for inspire. Passion always has a vital role. You guys know this. People are more impressed by the height of your enthusiasm than the depth of your knowledge. And so inspiration will come from that passion. So let people feel, let your guests feel your passion. And the O stands for outcome. What specific actions are you calling them to? What is the call? What is their next step, if you will? That's super important. If we don't have that at the end, then it's kind of a waste of time to do everything else, right? So that's your EIEIO guideline, and again, more in depth in here, okay? Plug for this book again. No, I don't make a penny off of it, but really, really awesome book, all right? Okay, so let's talk about some platform skills, and what I mean by this is some of the things that you can do to just enhance your ability to share and teach and educate. So the first platform skill I want to talk about is preparation. First, know your audience. Know their beliefs, the type of people they are, the area they live in, culture. That way you can create that bond, create that relationship. The more you prepare, the less you'll worry. It's so true. Okay, if you've got some of your prep time put in, you're not going to have those concerns or stresses. Leave bad attitude, annoyances, pet peeves, a bad day, and every other negative issue behind and stay focused on the mission. This can be hard, okay? But you guys are leaders in doTERRA. You're professionals. We all have bad stuff that still happens to us. I do. Every other leader in this company does. Just because you become a diamond or blue or presidential doesn't mean that bad things ever happen, okay? They do. Stuff happens. But when you go on stage, leave. In fact, the Disney University, and we love Disney in our family. You guys know that. We love what they teach. We love the parks. Disney University teaches, quote, whatever is backstage will end up on stage. Okay, ponder that. Whatever is backstage will end up on stage. So make sure everything behind the scenes is as smooth as possible, because eventually it'll be front and center otherwise, right? So again, not meaning that you won't ever have stuff going on, because we all do, but don't let it become front stage. Don't let it become part of your class or part of your training, okay? Resolve what can be resolved, and learn to walk on stage as a leader that commands and can educate and inspire and motivate and most of all teach, all right? So that's some of your preparation time. Next is dress. This is part of knowing your audience as well. It's interesting. I've had experiences where I've way overdressed, and I've had experiences where I've way underdressed. For example, my first trip to Asia, I learned that if you don't have a full suit and tie on, they won't even acknowledge that you're in the room. You know, that's just culturally what you have to do. Or ladies, you have to be in full business dress to have that attention and respect and to be listened to. Where in other cultures, you could flip-flop that, go to Hawaii, you could pretty much wear anything or nothing, close to nothing, and it's totally fine because everyone is so laid back and that's their culture, right? So a good rule of thumb here is figure out what your audience is going to be wearing, and then you can dress a notch or two above that. It's fine, but don't show up in Hawaii in a three-piece suit. Okay, that's not going to work. It's going to backfire, actually. So just be mindful of that, depending on where you're speaking, and be appropriate to the venue, right? The venue that you're speaking in. I mean, if it's convention or leadership or some larger event like that, obviously dress appropriate for the venue. Next bullet, smile. You'd be surprised. Everyone thinks that we do this already, but we don't do it enough. And if you really want to discover this, have someone film your next class or presentation and just take note of how much you actually do smile. Because my experience has been we all think we do it enough, but we're not. And so we've got to smile. You can tell. People can tell when you're smiling, even if they don't see you, they can tell because they can hear it in your voice. And so the more we smile, the more we're going to have that bridge built. And so make that a priority for sure. The next, let's talk about words. Now, this one is really huge. I feel for you as a leader in doTERRA because I see this happen a lot, and it's become one of my pet peeves a little bit, and it isn't a big deal, I guess, but what language do you speak? And what I mean by that is this. If you're teaching a class and there are new people and you start dropping terms like LRP, PV, some, company-specific acronyms that a brand new person has no idea what that is or what you're talking about, it's like you're speaking a foreign language. You could be speaking German or Chinese for all they matter because they don't know what any of those terms are and you lose them. And so I will often see people, leaders, get up in front of a brand new room and say, well, I'm so-and-so, and I'm a blue diamond with doTERRA, or I'm a double presidential and grand poobah extraordinaire with doTERRA. And remember, the guests in the room are clueless. They have no idea what any of that means. And so you've lost them. You've broken a connection because they're wondering, well, what is that? Is that good? Should I be listening to this person? What does that mean? And you don't want them following that thought process. And so keep your language very basic, especially when you've got new folks in the room. If you're doing a more in-depth business training with seasoned leaders, obviously that's different. But with the new folks, just be mindful of that, okay? We don't want to make them feel inadequate by any means. All right, next one. Next bullet, let's eliminate distractions. So I don't know if any of you have ever done a counter or some other phrases, like, okay, distraction phrases that people say over and over and over and over again in their class or their presentation. And what happens, unfortunately, is sometimes you'll get people in the room literally start keeping a tally. Every time we say or okay, or like, or and those are just a little nuance. These are just little tiny things that we can do to better ourselves in our presentation style by trying to be aware of those distraction phrases. We don't want the audience fixated on them or doing an tally, okay, or whatever the word. It can be any word, actually. I've heard many different words out there that have been repeated. So just be mindful of that, frequent use of certain phrases, to be aware of those. Chewing gum, drinking water every 3 seconds clearly fit into this category of a distraction. It's not bad to have water. I have water right here. I actually always have water with me, but you're not going to see, drinking it consistently because then this becomes the focus, right? Instead of the message that's being shared. Coins, keys, phones in a pocket, all of that, your keys and phone should be in your backpack or purse, just to get them out. You don't want to rattle. Again, it's distraction. We're trying to eliminate all distraction. They have enough distraction in their life as their own, on their own. Their own smartphone in their pocket is buzzing and beeping at them the whole time you're talking, trying to distract them away from what your message is and what you're teaching. So realize we don't want to add any distractions to what they've already got going on. Movement, momentum. Try to avoid a lot of pacing. If you've got a lot of constant movement back and forth, like it never stops, it creates kind of a tension energy, and people get kind of stressed and like, okay, what is something about to happen? What's going on? This person's like, maybe they need more serenity oil in their life or lavender. So avoid that, right? And you need to have some movement. Movement is good. Don't be the dull, my economics professor in college. He could induce a coma in 3 seconds. Okay, don't be that guy. But have some movement, but at the same time, don't be like Flash on Zootopia, the sloth. So funny. Don't be that guy either, okay, where everything's just monotone and no movement at all, because that also, it'll put people to sleep. And then the distraction in their pocket or purse, that smartphone, it'll become a real thing. Okay, don't sabotage yourself. Let's talk about self-sabotage for a second. The worst thing you can do is come out at the start of your class, especially as a leader, and come out at the start of your class and say things like, I'm grateful that I was asked to be here. I don't feel like I'm qualified to be, or I wasn't able to prepare for this talk or presentation. I'm not sure why they asked me to be here. You might think these sound weird, but I actually have heard this often, some of these statements often, by some of our own leaders. And so what you're doing is you're self-sabotaging, and you're making people in the audience question your credibility and whether or not they should even listen to what you're going to share. And so an amazing number of classes actually start out that way. So don't do that, okay? Don't discredit yourself, and try not to spread this self-sabotage disease. Okay, next, let's talk about the clock. I love the clock. The clock is simply this. You have a certain amount of time, whether you're teaching an intro class or a talk at convention or leadership. You have been given a certain amount of time, and as a professional, start on time and end on time. One of the biggest challenges that can often happen is we get caught up in the moment and can go far over time. And so do try and stick to what you've been given. And another taboo to avoid is addressing the clock. Oh, I've only got 5 minutes left, or oh, I've got 5 minutes overtime. Or, the audience doesn't see that. They don't even need to know that. It just, again, creates a distraction. Basically, guys, this. When you've said everything you have to say, end. Right? And even if you still have time left. Okay, I know this. I've had this experience where I had 40 minutes to talk, and at 35 minutes, I was done. I had presented everything, and so I ended. Right? And no one is going to harass you or feel bad that you ended early. Okay? No one, including the audience, right? And so if your message has been delivered, go ahead and end. Okay, let's go back and talk about humor again for just a minute. One of my favorite authors, J.R.R. Tolkien, you all have heard of him, author of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, and some great movies were made from those books. He's quoted as saying, "I warn you, if you bore me, I shall take my revenge." Okay, and I love that quote because it really is true. We do have to have some humor. Laughter opens the mind and heart. Okay, you can achieve that laughter by sharing experiences that have a humorous twist to them, sharing things that have happened locally or in your team, making it fun, makes it memorable. That being said, never start with a joke. Okay, never start your class with a joke. And this is why. It will be tempting. And I've been on both sides of this. If the joke works, it's great. But if it doesn't work, it's so bad, because you could have 5 or 10 minutes of recovery from a failed joke. And again, I've been in those shoes before too. So it's just not a good idea to start with a joke. You could implement one later maybe, or even towards the end. You've got to use humor even if you're humor challenged. Okay, even if you're humor challenged, come up with some sincere, genuine stories from you or team members, family members that will help create that humor. And you'll see a lot of great things there. Time passes very quickly. When people are having fun, they learn most when they're having fun. So we want to create that environment for them. Okay, next bullet, cadence and tone. crazy important here. You want to change up, fluctuate your voice patterns, tone, cadence. If you teach from one position at one speed and one voice at one volume, you're going to lose the audience, right? You've got to have some movement, like we mentioned earlier. The enemy of the speaker is sameness. We live in a society of chronic ADD. Everybody's just loaded with it, right? And we all have it, and we all have the attention span of a gnat. It's about 18 seconds or 8 seconds, something ridiculously small. And so have that variety in your cadence and tone, because, again, sameness kills. The power of the pause. I love the pause. If you ever feel like you have disconnected from your audience, or you've lost the group, or that you just want to really make a solid point, anchor a point, just stop talking. Just for 2 seconds. Now, to you, it's going to feel like 20 seconds, right? It feels way, way longer. But just count in your head, 1,000, 2,000, maybe 3 seconds tops. Because what happens as soon as you stop speaking, anyone that's drifted off is suddenly wakes up. Oh, well, what'd I miss? I missed something. Something's happening, right? I prove this to you works. Think about last time you were in church. Okay, this happens in every church. Doesn't matter what church. And whoever was speaking, stop speaking for just a moment. You pay attention to the congregation. What happens? All the heads come up. Right? All the heads come up is like, whoa, what's going on? What'd I miss? And it's just human nature. We all do this. And so you can use the power of the pause. It brings a feeling of high drama, okay, and wakes people up. It's like that feeling that we all had in grade school when the teacher called on you and you weren't paying attention and you felt like you missed something, right? I'm sure that wasn't just me. So that pause creates that same feeling and really brings them back. And then tell a story. Okay, tell a story after the pause. It will anchor the point. Okay, using the pause is powerful. Okay, let's talk about illustrations. Stories are the best. Okay, we mentioned that. You can make points with questions, something you hold in your hand, a diagram, a chart. PowerPoint gets used a lot in doTERRA. I'm a huge PowerPoint fan. With some cautions, we don't want to induce PowerPoint coma. PowerPoint is meant to be a visual aid, and so you want to have visual aids on the slide, right? Pictures, imagery, very little text if possible. Now, again, this is in more of an introductory setting, a more in-depth training setting. You could probably have a little more text and it would be fine. But you're wanting to help create an experience and a memory for the audience, right? So visuals do that. When often we'll see these PowerPoint slides that have so much text on them that you couldn't read it by the time the presenter moves on. And when they're reading it or squinting to try and read it, are they listening? No. Okay, they're not. And so our Asian markets love my PowerPoints, for example, because they're really easy to translate, because guess what they are? They're just all pictures. And pictures are easy to translate, right? Because a picture tells a story, and then you can tell the story and move on. And so use PowerPoint as a visual aid. Using general and specific illustrations for that area are really effective. So if you're going to, an area that has a specific sports team or is famous for a certain food or whatever it is, something specific to that region, if you can tie that into your examples, it anchors the story, anchors the point, makes you feel like one of them, and creates that instant trust, that bond of trust, which is what you're hoping to create. So it's a good idea to bring those in as well. And we want to make sure the stories we're sharing relate. This is important. What does this have to do with them? Okay? I mean, they might be sitting there with their arms crossed, sitting back, keeping their hand on their wallet, thinking, you're not getting any of this, right? And you have to be able to convey to them a message that relates to them. Remember, we're all listening to that same radio station in our heads, WIIFM, what's in it for me? So tap into that and make sure you're sharing, telling them. You can tell them directly what's in it for them. So make sure you're focused on that in using your stories and illustrations. Speaking of focus, Be 100% present as the speaker. Be present, be there. Don't be, checking, I've seen this, checking text messages while presenting. Oh, hold on. No, don't do that, guys. Okay, that might be okay for a newbie. You're not a newbie. Be 100% present. Be aware of the flow and the reacting energy of the audience. Be willing to deviate course to match what's going on in the audience. It's okay to do that. I've had many experiences where I didn't even present what I intended to present because what the audience needed was not what I had brought. They needed totally something else. And so that's where we went, and it's okay to do that. Have eye contact. One of the greatest things you can do is get good at just scanning through the room and trying to make eye contact with as many people as possible. It, again, creates that connection, creates that bond, creates that feeling of trust, and that he's talking, she's talking straight to me, right? This message is straight to me. So don't make the mistake, and again, from experience, of focusing in on just like the people in the front row. I know they're easiest to look at because they're right there. And in larger venues, you might not even see the people out in the back, right? Because it's dark. But do try and make an effort to broadcast your vision. Okay, a couple more things. Edification. If you happen to be chosen to introduce a guest speaker or a visitor from afar, or one of the owners of doTERRA, or some other leader that's come into the area, please edify that person so that the guests attending the class or event know who it is they're hearing from. I remember being at a class in the early years of doTERRA, and Dr. Hill was going to be there, and the person leading the class got up and said, "Well, thanks everyone for coming. We're super excited. Dr. Hill." And that was it. And then they sat down, and I almost died. In fact, I hopped up out of my chair. While Dr. Hill was headed up to the front, I intercepted him and just said, "Well, hold on a second. Just allow me to tell you why you should be so excited to hear from Dr. Hill." And then I shared some of his background and experience so that they knew why they should pay attention and why they should listen. So make sure and edify your guest presenters. Teach edification to your team members because you need to be edified as the speaker or teacher of that class when you're teaching so that the new people, again, will know why they should listen. Now, there is a caution with edification. When you start believing all the fluffy, wonderful things everyone is saying about you, you're in trouble. Okay? You're in trouble. So remember, it is sincere and it is genuine, but don't let it get to your head. Okay? Because that's not a space we want to be in either, right? Just two more things I want to share. Maybe three, really quickly. Nothing works better than honest, sincere, passionate simplicity. Simplicity is freedom, guys. If you can keep your message simple, it will be carried throughout possibly generations of people. And so keep it simple, keep it sincere, always lead with the benefits. Always, always, always lead with the benefit. That's why those people are there, what's in it for them, and you will have a successful event, a successful class, and you will be privileged to be on the platform of speaking and sharing at a regular basis. So if you'll implement some of these suggestions, you'll be able to ask yourself the question, has this truly been life-changing for the majority of the people in the room? Has there been a call to action? A good teacher compels people to be different by the time they leave. And that is what we're looking to create by you becoming a powerful presenter. One aspect of being a powerful presenter is attending as many presentations as possible. Every company event that comes into the area, conventions, leadership, all of the other amazing opportunities that happen all year round. We look forward to seeing you at those. We look forward to seeing you on stage at those at some point. Peace out.